Welcome to Homegirl Knows Best. This show is about the people, the stories, and all the messy chaos in between. I'm your host, Jen Cameron. Let's get into it. Today on Homegirl Knows Best, I'm sitting down with Arushi Kapoor, the force behind the Agency Art House. Raised in a world of art, now reshaping it, Arushi is a young mom, a global art advisor, a rule breaker in a very traditional space, and a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree and powerhouse. We're talking about art, motherhood, power, and what it really takes to build something iconic. As if you haven't already, welcome, Arushi.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm good. I told you. I was up at midnight, sort of preparing for this podcast, but we know each other. So I'm sure we can do just fine.
We do know each other, we're friends, and we love talking, so I hope this is entertaining for the listener.
That's right. Hey, I thought it would be fun to start with kind of your early beginnings, how you grew up around art. If you could just share a little bit about your background for our listeners to just start to kind of understand what shaped you.
Absolutely. So, I grew up in a business family. That means everyone in my family was either an industrialist or around business, which leans into I am something that people don't like these days called a Nepo baby. I did not have a lot of struggles growing up. It's definitely not something people enjoy connecting with, but regardless of that, I did work hard for everything that I did achieve, and I had help along the way, but help doesn't mean guaranteed success. In terms of art, I grew up in a family that loved collecting. So I had a very early introduction to collecting. I always tell my clients, my colleagues, or anyone who talks to me, I'm an art collector before I'm an art advisor any day, which actually leans into me being a great art advisor because I'm always thinking about if it was me on the other side, what are the factors that I would consider? Along the way, I had many different paths that I could have chosen. For a long time, I actually thought I was going to go into finance and banking because it felt like the right thing to do. I am an Indian kid, finance, engineering, doctor, lawyer. That's what the expectations always are, even though nobody in my family is a doctor or a lawyer. We're all entrepreneurs and business people. But I started off collecting at a very, very early age, probably at 13 is when my parents took me to Art Basel, Switzerland, and that unfortunately was not my first time at Art Basel, Switzerland, but it was my first time where I was given a budget to pick art for myself. So I've been doing this for a while. I am about to turn 30. You told me not to mention this, Jen, but I'm going to rub it in your face again.
You
I'm
said
about
it
to
right
turn
after I said I was 58 or made a comment. Then you said, "Oh, I'm about to turn 30." To be fair.
It is a milestone age. I'm actually gonna reap the benefits of that while I can. So I'm just gonna push that in right there. And after I, as a collector my whole life, I did a lot of other things. I interned at newspapers to learn how to write and also to articulate myself the best that I can. I worked at libraries, I worked at art galleries, I worked with auction houses, and then during college, I actually started a gallery of my own before I went into art advising. So I've really touched onto different perspectives, each that lent to my career, that shaped my career as it is today. So I'm grateful for every single one of those things. And really, like, if I hadn't done everything how I had done in the order that I had done it, I probably wouldn't be as good as I am at my job today. So I don't know if that's enough of an introduction. I hate tooting my own horn, so I tried my best here. You tell me, what do you
Listen,
think?
No, it's funny because everybody says that. Like, I don't want to talk about myself or give my accolades, but you know, if you are successful, you're successful. And there's, there should be no shame in sharing, your journey to success and that you have created this for yourself. I know what a hard worker you are. I've seen it firsthand. You've literally gotten on an airplane here to do an event that you had to coordinate from afar. And now you're doing, staging for us, one of our luxury listings that's coming on. And people think these things are easy. They're not, truly. But okay, so you talked about, the traditional roles, doctor, lawyer, etc. But it sounds almost as if this was just always your path. Did you ever think you were going to do something else that, took you out of that? Or was it always like steered you down that same path to where you are today?
Before I jump into that, I actually have a comment to make on something that you just said about tooting my own horn. So I think in general, people don't like talking about how good they are at things because it puts pressure on them. I don't think it's more so about talking about my achievements or my success, but like we were just talking about this before we hopped on, I think the more people realize what you've achieved, the more expectations are for you to achieve more. Um, and that expectations and that pressure can be easily avoided by not talking about yourself. So I think that's actually where it comes from. And then jumping on to your next question that you said was, did I think that I wanted to do something else? I absolutely had no idea this is what I was going to do in life. I was taken to art shows from a very young age because of my mother. And I hated it. I hated going. I hated dressing up. I hated talking to people. I very point blankly did not want to do anything that my mother had remote relations to. to.
I
Um,
think that's normal and typical.
So I had my whole life told my mom I don't want anything to do with art. And the more I ran away from it, the more I was pushed towards it like a good parent does, especially a good brown parent does. And I think by the time I was in college, again, that this goes off from being a Nepo baby, and I was given a lot of opportunities at the right time to grow into what I did grow into by that time. I knew a lot more about collecting art than a lot of seasoned art advisors or so-called seasoned art advisors did. And solely because I had that from a collector's perspective. I went to business school, I went to USC, Marshall. And when I went to USC Marshall, my degree and focus was specifically on finance. So that was the plan. But I learned this after I graduated, and I wish I learned this before I graduated. What you study in college makes absolutely no difference in what your career path is going to be. You should study what you genuinely enjoy in college and not something that you think your career path is going to go. Of course, that's not true for being a lawyer or being in the medicine career. But outside of that, if you're willing to be an entrepreneur, or you're thinking about business, or you're thinking about finance, I think it's very important to keep an open mind and genuinely just learn your interests. One of the best classes I took at USC was with this professor, Ken Sereno. I remember his name very well. It was Persuasion. And that class stuck with me, and I still read all the books he recommended and all the techniques that he recommended. And it was one of the best class. It had nothing to do with finance, and it had nothing to do with art. It had to do with just general things that I had an interest in. So I think my path in an alternative lifetime would have been in probably mergers and acquisitions somewhere in New York City with some investment bank or some kind of bank or firm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you were explaining that really well. And Was that your phone that just went off?
Yes.
I
Yes,
thought
my
she was in the room there and told you to silence your notifications.
she did. My shout out to Georgina. She is the heart of my operation here and my existence. She told me to turn off my notifications, but I am not the tech support kind of Indian, so I actually don't know how to do that.
That was awesome, though. Oh, okay. So your path leads you to where you are, and you're in this, professional role in the art world. What surprised you once you graduated and you started to build a career in art?
The art world is very difficult to navigate. It's unregulated, and traditionally, you have to be given the knowledge as inheritance. 1% of the entire world collects art. It's not an asset class that generally people have access to whatsoever. So, for me to learn from a sales perspective and from a collecting and building a collection perspective, to keep my personal point of views aside, to listen to people and what their needs and wants are, and to figure out how to do a non biased evaluation of what they wanted and how to achieve something that is not my personal preference but is the client's preference was very interesting and a great learning experience. I think when I ran the gallery in downtown LA while I was still in college, that was a great experience there to initially teach me how to deal with different personalities and not be biased towards anyone really. I think the other thing about the art world is access. The art world works very similar to how Hermes or AP work, where there are Birkins available at Hermes, they're just not available for you. And the art world's pretty similar. You go to a top art gallery and say, "Hey, I love this artwork. I want to get the top Basquiat or the top Warhol," and they'll kind of tell you, "Get in line, buy a bunch of things that are not what you want in order to maybe get offered what you want." And to explain that in nice terms to wealthy individuals and clients is always difficult. So it's still fun to explain to people that I know you're a multi-billionaire, but you're not the most important person here. So that's always been interesting. And then the last part of it is I look at art very similar to how finance people look at stock portfolios or asset portfolios. And I do a lot of research. We actually at the agency Art House are very, very big on research, very big on comms, very big on picking up the phone call and talking to all of the galleries about their private sales, deep provenance checks and everything, which is not actually the usual way a lot of people exist here. They might say they do, but I can tell you firsthand that not a lot of people actually do what they're saying that they do. So I think that was interesting for me to develop our entire process. That is very much what are we all of our art advisors that work at the agency Art House, we work by the book. There are certain expectations on the back end that I place on all of our art advisors. They're extremely vetted. I work with everyone on their team. So those are all the fun things. I'm not letting you talk at all, so I'm gonna let you ask me a follow-up question.
No, it's good. Okay, explain this because Jonathan Sposato was just on my last podcast and talked about his art collection, and he has a favorite piece, and we were talking about the emotional draw to art versus does this make a good, is this a good asset? Is this a good investment, right? How does one balance those two things? Because I'm a very emotional person. I'm going to see something usually in art that draws me right to it, right? But you might come in and say, maybe that's not the best place to put your money when you're looking at art as an asset. And I would liken that to a conversation I also had recently with Lauren Cameron, who came on and talked about designing, jewelry, custom jewelry. And I said, well, what happens if you get a couple in and she really wants this and he really wants that? How do you have that conversation with somebody to help them make a good decision?
So, what your financial preferences and needs are need to be clearly discussed between the client and the art advisor. And that comes from some level of trust. That also comes from some level of being extremely discreet. Actually, not some level of being extremely discreet, a very high level of it being extremely discreet. I know a lot about my clients' finances, what they have their money invested in, what their financial goals are. I think here is where my background in business and finance comes extremely handy. I discuss that off the bat. There's a lot of different artwork. There's a lot of different artwork that talks to a lot of people emotionally, and art needs to be something that you connect with. Whether some artwork makes you angry, happy, upset, feel a certain kind of way, art is something that should make you feel. But the starting point is always what's your financial goals and what's your current financial situation, what you're comfortable with. And within that, we show you artworks that might talk to you. And there is a lot of art in this world. And I would suggest, depending on what your needs and wants are, we curate a collection that has a balance of both of those, the emotional aspect first and foremost in terms of aesthetic and everything else, and a financial aspect to it as well, because it is a financial commitment. How I do it personally is I actually know a lot about my clients, everything from their mistresses, how much they're spending on their mistresses, what houses they've purchased. I know about their parents, where their parents live. I know about their last fight with their wife and what that was about. And I know my clients to a extent where they're very comfortable telling me everything about their financial needs, wants, and requirements. And then after that, I keep sending them art that I think would emotionally connect with them, and then they tell me what their remarks are, and then according to their remarks, we hone in exactly what they like. I think after a point of time in life, and enough time has passed, you get very good at exactly finding out what your clients would love. There's situations where I force my clients to go and see an artwork at a gallery, and they look at it in person and they're like, I actually loved it. It didn't look like this when you sent it to me in a PDF. There's other times where every situation is very individual. It's hard to say, but we sell artworks at the agency art house starting at a couple of $1,000s up to tens of millions of dollars. So everything is very individualized. Every client is
Explain
different.
explain to people that are listening, what is the agency art house and why you chose to launch into this venture?
Absolutely. So the agency art house is an art advisory service. We help clients buy and sell artworks. We build collections for people. We look at the markers that they need, what their personal KPIs are. KPIs are basically benchmarks that they need to achieve. We want to purchase an artwork today, but we want to make sure that it holds its value for the next couple of years and sell it in a couple of years to get a bigger art piece with those proceeds. We want to build an art collection maybe for the long term and give this as inheritance to our kids. We just want to buy an artwork as a filler space right now so we can replace it with the right artwork later. Different people have different needs. So the agency art house is essentially somewhere between a financial advisor and a art curator that advises you on what to build, in your art collection. We are a full service agency, so we handle everything. We will handle logistics, we will handle install, insurance for your artworks, and the higher level, if you want to get a loan for your artworks, we connect you to the right banks. If you want to build a foundation related to art, we would connect you to the right lawyer. So we essentially do everything within the realm of the art world. We also have the agency Art House Staging that stages high-end properties with high-end artworks that make the house essentially look a lot better than a lot of the absolutely shitty staging art that a lot of
So bad. So
companies
bad.
use.
I went into this house and there were these big, huge walls. And I literally went over to the wall, took the little canvas off, turned it around, and it was like TJ Maxx or something on the back. And it was these tiny little pictures on the wall on this huge scaled wall. And it made the room look so weird. I don't know. But I mean, we use luxury stagers and they, have some great stuff, but nothing like having
You got
Arushi
people
curate
shit
your
on your
listing.
stagers and as an agent, Jen.
Listen, RD Interiors, they do a great job, not like other stagers. Huge fan. I'm going to redeem myself. Andrew Braun. What else?
Are they sponsoring this
No,
podcast?
no. John Rosa-Kelly, my dear friend, world's best luxury stager here in the Seattle area. Anyways, you're doing a project right now with us and also RD Interiors. We're excited to have you come out and do that. We've had other collabs. I know I've had clients use you to purchase art. We actually should share too the story. I had an agent at another company call me and say, "Hey, Jen, don't you have the agency art house?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I'm cleaning out one of my listings and the kids found in their parents' home this piece of art. They think it's worth something. And I called you and it was worth like two or $300,000. And you were able to help find a buyer for it."
If there is a sale to be made, best believe we will make it. If there is a purchase to be made, best believe we will make it. You don't become the best by calling yourself the best. Your actions always speak louder than words. And the
That's
same
right.
thing with us, right? Like you connected me to a client. It took us about a year to get the first sale for her. The client is absolutely happy. Actually, she's visiting Los Angeles right now. She
No
is,
way.
yeah, she's an absolutely amazing client, amazing human being. I ended up being friends with her. Um, and I ended up getting her some absolutely amazing deals in art. Um, and she's going to be building her whole collection with us. So it's not like I said, building an art collection is not a sprint. It's a relay. You have to be building these relationships with your clients for a long time so they trust you. And you need to be knowing exactly what you're doing for them because they're hiring you for your service. And this is a service industry. For me, my biggest focus is always my clients and their needs. I'm happy to give up my own needs and wants in order to get something for my clients because I focus on long term relationships with them, right? And in order to build a long term relationship, it's just like a marriage. A marriage isn't built in a day, it takes years for you to be in a great marriage.
Nurturing it.
Yeah, it takes time to nurture it. It takes time to nurture the friendship. It takes time to nurture the trust. And that's very similar to my relationship with my clients.
So, what happens if somebody's interested in purchasing art? Let's say, I always say you could go to Crate and Barrel and spend $3,000 on a replica print, or I could have you call Arushi and she could help you, find something original that you love. How do you work with clients that don't have hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to help them build an art collection?
So we have art advisors at the agency Art House that specialize in different price categories and different things. So when you connect me or anyone reaches out to the agency art house, the first thing that I do is do a discovery call. The discovery call is with me. And I speak to them and understand exactly what their needs and wants are and what they're comfortable disclosing to me. We have certain questions that I need clear answers to: budget, style, colors, where the artworks are going. And then, according to my first discovery call, I connect them to a team. This team includes a logistics manager, their art advisor that becomes their point person, and me. And the art advisor that I pick depends on what their needs and wants are. From then on, the art advisor will start sending curated PDFs to them. The art advisor would set up their own phone call. They start building that trust and that friendship that I was talking about. And then they start sending PDFs to the clients, and then the clients start picking from that. So if there is someone who is buying artworks for a couple of $1,000s, there is an art advisor that I would connect to them. There's several art advisors that work in that price point and price range in the agency art house. But I would connect them to the one that also fits best and works the most within their aesthetic. And they would start sending works very specifically curated to them, and then they buy.
That was a trick question because I need art for my new Madison Park office and I'm broke. Moving to Old Main Street and opening in Madison Park, doing 2 build outs. No, I'm not broke. I'm just kidding, but I should have a budget. Okay, I want to switch gears because this is something that I wanted to ask you. I had read an article and it's an older one. And in it, you talked about the Good Old White Boys Club. And I always say the Good Old Boys Club in real estate runs deep at the top. There's very few women leaders, and definitely went through a lot of challenging times as a young woman growing up in real estate, not having a lot of strong female leadership that I could identify with or look up to. That is changing. It still needs to continue to change. As you know, we have Rainey Hake Austin, who is the president of the agency, and I'm so grateful for her. But I thought that was really interesting when I saw that comment, and I wanted to ask you about that. Being a young woman growing up in art, what did that mean?
So historically, the art world has been an old white men club. And the reason for that is at the highest level, historically, the richest individuals have been in that category and they only trust people like themselves. So if you look at the older art dealers, anyone over the age of 60, a majority of the top were in that category. That's not to say that I don't work with them now. I do work with them now. But I think as the society has changed, a lot of things in the art world have changed. That includes a lot more female leadership, a lot more colored leadership, a lot more minority leadership, but also you have to look at it from the client's perspective as well, not just a leadership perspective, because they kind of go hand in hand, right? In the last many years, we've seen a host of new clients coming into the art world. People that historically were not art collectors, that made money in finance, that made money in tech, that made money in a lot of the newer AI, a lot of the newer industries. These people are typically not the old white men. And they are very in tune with the world as it is today. So they want people that are modern, they want people that are young, they want people that have future perspective. And since the clientele changed, that created opportunity for a lot more people like myself to jump into the art world in leadership positions. I think this was true for several different industries. And the art world now is going towards a place where internationally the minority or historic minorities minority communities have been given some sort of platform to catch up to the traditional artists in the United States. A lot of people, when they think about the top American artists from the 60s, 70s, 80s, I mean, you think about Picasso, you think about Andy Warhol, you think about Jackson Pollock, you think about Rauschenberg. I mean, they're all old white men. Now, in today's date, when you start thinking about the top artists, or if you just do a quick span of museum shows that have retrospectives that have happened just in the last 3 years, I would say post COVID, you'll see a lot more representation of women. You'll see a lot more representation of South Asian artists, a lot of representation of the African diaspora, a lot of representation of the Japanese artists, other South Asian communities, and other Asian communities as well. And I think that's just because the world is becoming more cosmopolitan and people want people with a futuristic long-term perspective, not people that are stuck in their own old ways.
So you are also married and a young mom, right? Okay, so motherhood changes everything. How did that
Married to an
affect?
old white man.
Yeah. Okay, let's start there. So how did you guys meet? How did you meet your husband?
On Hinge
I love this. I love this so much.
during COVID.
Oh my gosh. Did you have a time where you couldn't see each other, or did you just say, screw it, I'm going to break the rules. We're going to meet each other anyways?
No, we did not break the rules. We actually flew to Mexico, where there were no COVID rules. So, I think a couple of weeks into us dating, we just flew to Mexico.
You're kidding. Is that when like you would get off the plane and I heard that they had these things that they just sprayed you down with? Did
No, we
did
did
that
not
ever
get sprayed
happen?
down.
Is that a rumor that I'm just repeating?
Yeah, might be. Um, I so this was Doug and I. We met during COVID. He's not that old. He's in his mid 30s, but he is a lot older than me because I'm still in my late 20s.
That's
Um, I'm still milking it.
Arushi,
Uh,
what day is your birthday? Because there's got to be a lot of shit given on your 30th birthday at this point.
August 17th, I'm open to all gifts sent to me. I love gifts. Um, but we had a very interesting love story where we met on Hinge. I was world traveling. It was my young, wild, and free days where nothing was too scary. Now that I have a daughter, I realized that if my daughter went on a date with a random man during something like a pandemic, like COVID was, and had her first date at his house, I would be extremely upset about the whole situation. So, young, wild, and free days. Our second date was right when the restrictions were lifted, and our third date was in Mexico. So, when the restrictions came back, um, so it was a fun little timeline. I have the best husband, the most supportive husband. We discuss everything with each other. He's my best friend. I know it sounds very cliche, but he is genuinely my best friend because our one rule to each other is always that we don't lie to each other whatsoever. And sometimes being honest with each other creates a lot of frictions, but friction builds character. And uh, he went to law school and comes from a family of lawyers, so it builds character for me when I'm arguing with him, so I can go and negotiate better with all the art galleries.
That's a good marriage there. And yes, telling each other the truth, I think, is a really good stable foundation of a marriage. Do you guys, you have your own art style? Do you and he share the same like affection for a specific art style, or are you like me? Every time I go into a house, I can see what it can be. And then I go home and I tell my husband, oh my God, I saw this amazing house. I think we should buy it. And he said, no, I told you after the last one, we're done.
We're in a very great marriage where it's my way or the highway, Jen. He either needs to get on board or he can watch this art piece being in our house forever and bother him. So, the art style is very simple. If I like it, we're getting it. If I don't like it, we're not getting it. And that's where it starts and ends. There's other things in life that I listen to him about, but art is not one of them, and food is also not one of them, and shopping is also not one of them. But there are other, and also family financial planning is also not one of them. So everything else except the major decisions that we're making, he can comment on, and I will listen to him. But
You
like
literally
any,
covered everything: art, food, fashion. Does he, what, music?
he can pick the cars that are coming into our house. Um, he can pick the music, yes, sometimes when I'm not in the mood to pick. But like any good organizational structure, there needs to be one person with the vision and the other person that's following the vision and executing it. You know this, like, with building the agency Seattle, you can't have too many chefs in the kitchen.
It's true. It's true. And when I go home, my husband's kind of in the business. He's a land guy. So he's got his company. I've got mine. I literally married Scott because we walked into Jimmy Choo in New York and I had 10 pairs of shoes on the floor. I'm trying on everything and anything because we're certainly not shopping for fashion in Seattle. And he says to me, which ones are you going to get? And it was so innocent, but I heard the plural in that. And I'm like, I will marry this man. Like, he's never said, he wouldn't even dare to say anything about anything that I want to purchase. Right. Like that's, I work hard and so does he. But, I've also never hid anything from him. I hear women that like hide things. I think that's weird.
Well, I think the best financial planning in terms of shopping is just put it on his credit card and tell him this is the bill.
Oh my God, I'm so getting Scott Cameron to listen to this podcast. Thank you. Thank you for that wisdom.
And then it's not my problem, it's his.
I'm learning so much from this. Thank you. Thank you. My life is changing. I'm so inspired from this podcast. Okay, talk to
Women,
me.
for women, his money is your money because you're in a marriage together, and your money is also your money because we're in this marriage together.
Totally dispelling the Nepo baby myth here. Hey, okay, seriously, I want to talk about your daughter because I know the profound effect that being a mother had on me. I always say if I didn't have my children, I would probably be vacationing all over the world, shopping, going to the spa, living my best life. But I chose motherhood, and I'm a better person because of being a mom. I know that I am less selfish, I'm more patient, all the things that they say. But it's really challenging when you're running a very successful business and parenting and momming and all these things and dividing your time, making sure your husband gets your attention, your daughter gets your attention. And so how has motherhood affected you as far as, being a wife, being a professional in all the ways?
So I will start off by saying motherhood for me was an uphill battle. I don't know if you know this. I lost my first baby at birth during the delivery because of medical negligence on my doctor's part.
No, I did not know this. And thank you for sharing that with me.
So this was actually my second baby. And I got pregnant a couple of months after I gave birth, which I'm very thankful for because if I hadn't done it in that timeline, I probably would have been too scared to go through pregnancy again. I think it happened so fast after I gave birth to our first daughter that I was able to. I don't think I removed that fear 100%, but I was able to overcome it to a certain degree. I still think about it. It was a very traumatic situation, so everything's very vivid in my head even still regarding that. So my baby Isla to me, who is actually releasing her first book, Clap, 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 available on Amazon. Since I'm doing this, I'm gonna market her book. We're releasing a children's book that's based on basic learning for her first birthday, which is actually next week.
This is
But
so cool. I'm going to order
thank
it.
Thank you. I will send you the link as well. But she was a special baby to me. It was an uphill battle. The pregnancy was very fearful. I was very scared that I was going to lose her, just like I lost our first baby the whole time. My doctors, shout out to Dr. Zonian from USC, Dr. Korostov. They were absolutely amazing. I had the best team the second time round. We didn't use the doctors of obviously after the first time. And it was for me because of all of that, motherhood was very softening. I think I was a very harsh person, or at least, again, I'm going to mention Georgina here because Georgina's been through life with me. She told me that I've become a much more understanding person and I'm more willing to listen to other people's opinions since I had Isla. I see her in the background there nodding. But she's not disturbing at all.
Georgina, is this true? Georgina, I want to know, is this true? Is she a softer version?
For sure. She has. Real soft.
I don't think soft. I think I'm definitely softer.
Softer.
But motherhood, from an ambition perspective, didn't change me at all. I've always been a very ambitious person, and actually, on the contrary, after I gave birth, I was more so thinking from a financial perspective about how to secure my daughter's future, whether it be setting up an education fund or trust or long term when she turns 18, what mutual funds, bonds, all of these different things. I think the week after she was born, I had a really long conversation with our financial planner. Shout out to Asher and Michael. There's so many people in our lives. Honestly, like building a long-term, good, stable life, you need a lot of help and a lot of people's advice. You can't build it yourself. I always talk to my accountants, lawyers, and financial planners before I make decisions in life. Thankfully, I have the resources to deal with that. Same thing with art advisors. My clients ask me questions because that's what I'm a master in. So I think when Isla was born, that was a big thing. Set up. You can hear my notifications over
Yeah.
there.
Do you not know how to turn her phone off?
I told her to. Next time I'm just gonna have to take her laptop or her phone and do it myself.
But anyway, I think the ambition actually increased exponentially. Now, in order for me to act on that ambition, like you said, to manage a role as a wife, as a mother, as a friend, have a robust social life, have a robust personal life, I needed to learn how to manage it. And I think this combination is very different for a lot of different people. I have help from a lot of my friends. For example, my daughter's got fathers. my close friends, people that are in our orbit, all love my daughter Isla so much. And when I'm not giving them attention, giving my daughter attention, giving her attention, she, someone's around to give her attention. My in-laws and my mom. My mom calls my daughter every morning. She's in India, and she spends 30 minutes on FaceTime with my daughter.
Oh,
It's actually really, really important. When we went to India last year, my daughter pretty immediately recognized my mom. And FaceTime is extremely important. I know people are against screen time. I am not. Um, you give up some things. Some people, they have the time for it. With my daughter, she watches TV and she watches YouTube, and she says a lot of words. She's learned a lot. I'm not against screen time whatsoever. And then, having a great support system really helps. Having a supportive husband, making it clear that during the day, if I'm working, I would not like to be disturbed. And my husband jumping in during the day, and taking care of my daughter. Sometimes G is ignoring all of her work all day. G is our head of operations at the agency Art House. She's not actually ignoring the work, but she loves going and hanging out with Isla. My best friends, they come in and out. Our house has an open door policy. So they go in and out of my house all day. So there's actually someone with Isla at all times that is our close family or friends. And that has built my entire ecosystem where I'm able to do what I'm doing without feeling guilty. So I think that's very important. So, what I would suggest to anyone who asks me about this is figure out who your tribe is and prepare them while you're pregnant. Ask for all the things that you need to ask for from your friends. Train them that they have to give you time when you're pregnant. So when your baby is born, instead of giving you time, they start giving that time to your baby. This goes back to my USC persuasion skills. Give them a blueprint, which
we're
is an
going to
actual
we're going to
blueprint.
need to write a book and we're going to call it Life Skills by Arushi.
If
How
they're
to
used to
win
being
and
around.
influence others.
Absolutely. I mean, if they're used to coming over and like giving into your demands, which a lot of my friends, I love them to bits, will come over whenever I need them to come over, but I trained them on this. When I like, after my first pregnancy, all of my friends were so sympathetic towards me. I milked it. I made sure that they were with me so often. My best friend moved in with us because I made him, and he's this is my tribe and that's my ecosystem. So figure out what your ecosystem is, and then when the baby is born, they're still going to be there, and you're going to be busy dealing with your career and ambition, and the baby still gets everyone's attention and love.
That's perfect. Perfect. Everything you need to know about motherhood was just shared with you right here on Homegirl Knows Best. So, okay, you were recently named Forbes 30 under 30, and that's kind of a big deal. How did that feel?
Okay, there is a lot more to achieve.
So who's putting the pressure on you? Because we started this before the cameras were on and everything, and I said, you've had all these accomplishments, and now you're going to turn 30, and then everybody's going to go, okay, what are you going to do now, girl? Right? You got to keep it going. But the sky's the limit. That's what I like to say. And as long as you're having fun and you're loving life, that's what really matters.
Well, you nailed it. I think the most important thing in life is to love life through the good and bad, both. Um, I don't know what the future has for me. I think the biggest thing that I learned from losing my baby was that I don't know what life has in store for you, and all you can do is the best. Now, for me personally, I think my biggest competition in life has always been, and this is a personality trait, and I don't think this is the only way to be. I actually think this is a pretty unhealthy way to be, if I'm being honest. But I've been my own biggest competition for a really long time. I really tend to ignore other people in and what they're doing. I don't count other people's success. I don't count other people's money. I don't look at other people whatsoever. And for me, being in, again, I'm going to go back to my ecosystem of my friends and family, being in that sheltered environment where I'm not looking for a better social circle or better friends or anything there. Whatever comes to me, I'm happy to take it. When there's effort put towards me, I'm always reciprocating. But I think my biggest competition from an ambition point of view, to my own fault, is me. I don't know what I'm going to have to achieve, or what I see. I'm saying what I'm going to have to achieve because I have in my head what I need to achieve already, and I already am working on projects that are as far as 8-9 years out. But to me, 30 is just a number. I like teasing people because I am often the youngest person in the room. And I like teasing people because I think that just keeps the environment more lighthearted. There's no need to be so serious in life. But for me, if I'm not able to achieve what I've thought that I'm achieving, I'm going to be harsh on myself. So, in order for me to not be harsh on myself, I gotta be very proactive and very big on execution. I've taken therapy every single week for the last 10 years, whether I needed it or not. And my therapist, his main goal is to make sure that I'm mentally in a good place to continue on how I am continuing on. He tells me what's normal because I think something that I don't understand, I'm very bad at social cues. Something that he tells me is this is what people normally do, and this is what people normally don't do. But also, besides that, when I'm upset, he brings me to equilibrium. When I'm too excited, he brings me to equilibrium. There's a huge reality check point of view. He probably has been my biggest critic, but everyone I've recommended him to, Dr. Carter Stout, has been very thankful to me. So I think he's one of the best therapists. I have taken therapy from other people before him, and none of them lost it. And he's been a great force through everything. I mean, for my husband's from a different religion, a different different part of the world. Navigating that is also not easy, and he helped me and my family. He's even though he didn't actually speak to my family, but he helped me navigate that situation with them as well through losing the baby, through building all of these businesses, through closing a lot of these businesses, through a lot of things that I wasn't able to achieve. I think the biggest thing that he promotes, which my husband also co-promotes with me, is extreme positivity. I am actually optimistic to a fault about things, and it's great. I think it's the only way to be.
I love that. And I love that you shared your own journey with therapy because I'm a huge proponent of therapy. My therapist told me to get a hobby because I was a workaholic. So I make candles now. There you go. But it's good. It's good to have time to think about yourself. It's good to have time to be, reflecting. It's really good to be self-aware.
I agree with that. I think self-awareness in general is important. Like, I'll tell you, one of my biggest faults in life is I tune out Georgina.
That means she's like your husband. I tune
Pretty
out my
much.
husband.
Honestly, both Doug and Georgina, when they're talking to me, it's like white noise.
Yes. Yes. It's a skill, though. People can be having a full conversation when they're around me. And if I want to tune them out, I literally can. I will not hear a word that they've said. Oh my God, Arushi, I love you. I hope you're going to come to Seattle soon because we really need to get this going on.
I'm excited. I'm excited to do our first staging project in Seattle together. We're currently only doing it with only select agents that Jen asks us to do specifically. um, but hopefully in the future we launch the general staging program in the agency art house where other agents also have access to this. I don't think it's going to happen soon because we're still pretty small in that aspect, and we are very strict on being high standards there. But
Hmm.
I'm excited to be in Seattle. I'm excited for our first event at the Staged House, where people
Yes.
can see what we actually do in person.
Yeah.
So,
Our
fun things to
last
come
event was
in.
fun. This is going to be even more fun. I want to end this podcast with a question that I have for you. Um, and it has to do with kind of other young women. One thing you wish women were taught earlier about their own power.
I think for me, I had a situation a couple of years ago where one of my family members, who, not an immediate family member, family member, my father's brother, who was at the time managing my finances, stole a lot of money from me. A lot. He was my quote unquote manager, business manager, and he really did take advantage of it, considering he was in his 60s and I was in my late teens and early 20s. And one thing I would say for everyone is please seek professional help when you are dealing with finances. I learned this maybe 6, 7 years too late. People think just because they're making a small amount of money, they can't hire a finance manager. There's plenty of people that are willing to help you with deciding how to strategically invest, and they are insured and they are proper individuals that will hold your money and grow your money properly. I learned that later on, also in my mid 20s. I wish I started working when I was very in my early teens. Not that early, I wasn't 13, but like in my mid teens. But I went through this, and it was a really difficult situation in life. And I learned a lot about financial planning, management, and all of these things. There's a lot of other resources if you aren't able to just find a good financial manager. You could look into other resources like there's a lot of new apps, Alinea, Robinhood. I don't have anything related to any of them. I'm not an investor in any of them, nothing to do with me. But start looking at financial tools. Making money is important, but investing money is equally as important. I
Keeping your money.
keeping your money and having your money grow is equally as important. Even if you're putting $100 a month aside, it's still important to figure that out. So I think when I'm talking to young females, I think so there's two things. I think in our world, I said I think 4 times. In our world, the financial burden is often put on men. Still, in traditional roles, you people expect men to make all the financial decisions of your household. So when you're growing up, it's your father, and then when you're grown up and you get married, it's your boyfriend or husband, right? I think it's important to have conversations with them, but it's important to keep things in your own reign and your own hand. So, something that I would have done back in the day, and just to be clear, like that whole experience, I learned a lot about our financial system, all of the protections that we have, all of those things. But one thing that I would have done very differently from a very early age would have been that I hire a professional to deal with my whatever situation I need to be dealing with regarding finances. Take your reins into your own hands and make your own cognitive decisions instead of leaning on someone who really is not qualified. Most of your family members or friends or parents or any of those people, they might have a lot of experience, but they're not qualified. Find someone who's qualified.
That is excellent advice. I always say, you know, generations are changing, and this is where I sound much older than you today and date myself. But, you know, when I was graduating and, you know, thinking of getting married, and it was very much in those traditional roles, right? I have a lot of friends who've gotten divorced over the years, and they discovered that they didn't know where their money was, or the person leaving moved money that they don't know where it went. Every woman should, in my opinion, young woman, have the opportunity to go out, get their first apartment, furnish it, get a job, find yourself fully self-sufficient in every way, so that, you know, even if you marry Prince Charming and he ends up not being so charming one day and you find yourself having to do it again, that you've done it once, you can do it again, right? But every woman should know where all of the money is, all of their finances. You know, don't be afraid to look at it. I think that is an excellent message. That's an excellent message for men and women alike, to be, you know, on the same team when it comes to finances. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming on today. I know how busy you are. I'll be bothering you
I
again.
love chatting with you. I think um, uh, every time we get on the phone, there's at least a 30-minute conversation. So this is not that much different from our general conversations.
It's because if we, you know, it's like if we talked more, saw each other more, there wouldn't be these long conversations because we'd be able to have the short sidebars, but we don't. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so jazzed that you did the agency art house with Mauricio and decided to do this, because it's changed my business, and it's such a great conversation and it's such a great connection for our clients. And so I guess I'll just end this, say, I'll see you soon, girlfriend.
I will see you soon. I mean, I will talk to you sooner since we're working on a project together. It's probably not going to be that many days since till we like speak, but I'm excited and thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, I'll call you from my car. Anyways, thank you. And I'll see you later, Gator.
All right, bye.
If you've made it this far, thanks for listening, and thanks to my guest. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See ya!